Hey there, I'm Sarah Zarella, a portrait and wedding photographer and your host for Wedding Secrets Unveiled. This is a podcast where we cut through the complexity of wedding planning, leaving you with everything you need to know directly from the industry experts. If you want to simplify your wedding planning while having fun, of course, you came to the right place. Join me while I guide you through your planning, starting from your engagement to your big day when you say, I do. After photographing for over 20 years, I am sharing with you tips and tricks to cut through the excess noise. Because I believe from the moment you said yes, your planning experience should be a magical time in your life. Here you'll find episodes that are fun, stress-free, and straight to the point with a fresh, honest take on the reality of what you really need to know about planning your perfect day. Let's dive in. Well, welcome back to Wedding Secrets Unveiled podcast, friends. I'm your host, Sarah Zarella, and I have a treat for you today. I have Hannah Roze on, and she is the CEO and founder of Plannerd, which is an amazing new platform to help you stay organized and help you plan and just take the ease and the stress off of wedding planning, which is kind of what this whole podcast is about, right? We are just here to help you with your wedding planning. So if you are interested in hearing about how to stay on task and stay organized, and if you just want a really cool tool to help you plan, tune into this episode with Hannah. Thank you so much. Well, welcome back to Wedding Secrets Unveiled podcast, friends. I'm your host, Sarah Zarella, and today I am joined with Hannah. Hannah, can you tell our viewers a little bit about who you are, who you serve, and what you do in your business?
Yes, absolutely. Like Sarah said, Hannah Rose, I'm the founder and CEO of Plannerd. Plannerd is an online wedding planning platform for couples, venues, and wedding planners, wedding pros, to help have a more organized and enjoyable wedding planning experience.
I love it. So, what made you start this whole new venture?
Yes, I it was really inspired by my own wedding planning experience where we had the most amazing wedding planner. We were planning during COVID, which everyone knows was a tough go. So we had an extra year thrown in the mix. But during the process, we really just sent spreadsheets back and forth to one another and long email chains with attachments. And you have a little journal on the side and post-its and all the things. And during the whole process, my husband and I kept asking each other, why is this still so hard when, 2.5 million people get married every year in the United States? And it felt like we were really reinventing the wheel when it came to wedding planning, despite having an expert planner who helped handhold. But the admin side of things was still so chaotic and disjointed. And I was also in business school at the time. So I'm kind of having this eagle eye towards different problems seeing in my own life. And I thought, someone should really try to go after this and fix it. And then I thought, I think based on my software experience and my experience in startups and wanting to attack a problem, this person might actually be me who should go after this problem. So I started doing research and understanding the lay of the land of what tools were existing and really hearing as many stories from couples and wedding pros as possible. And the resounding response was this is a chronic issue that wedding planning is seen as a frustrating rite of passage that everyone goes through, and it just has to be overwhelming as a real part of the process. And I just refuse to believe that it has to be frustrating. And I think we can help infuse joy and empowerment into the process through a systematic and structured approach.
So, really, what you're saying, right, is how to stay organized and enjoy the process of wedding planning was kind of like the pain point, right? And then you're found the solution, right?
Yes, exactly.
So tell me a little bit about Plannerd.
Yes. So it covers all the main touch points that you want throughout the wedding planning process. So you're not having to pull up, I think the largest spreadsheet I've seen was 51 planning tabs, 51 tabs full of
Wow.
formulas and interconnected data. And I think it actually works to do the opposite of creating calm and peace and organization and becoming more overwhelming than helpful. So Plannerd is a calming, organized place that you can jump into. We specifically designed it with as little learning curve or no learning curve as possible with super intuitive product design. So you and your partner can jump in and begin to plan. Your parent could jump in and feel comfortable, even when, there's varying degrees of tech comfort when you are trying to bring your parent, maybe delegate to them in some way. So we cover budget, to-do list, timeline, guest management, vendor management, all of the different details that you might be tempted to bring up a spreadsheet, or you have a few different tools that are disconnected that aren't speaking to one another. With Planner, you can really use it as your hub and your source of truth for planning. So you're not having to be in that chasing down details mode over an extended period of time, a year plus in the wedding planning groove, but instead have a really calming place to be that feels organized so that you don't feel like, I have my normal job, my normal life, all the things. And then my second job is wedding planning and having to, project manage your wedding. And we can help you have a more enjoyable experience that's really grounded in organization.
So, is this a subscription based, an app based, online? Tell our listeners a little bit about how they can actually get the tangible plannered app or program
Yes.
or, yeah.
Absolutely. So all you have to do is go to plannerd.com, plannerd.com, and you sign up as a couple if you're on the couple side for just a one-time fee of just 99 bucks, and it gives you full complete access to all the features, all the different things you need. You can invite as many different people as you want, your wedding planner, your best friend, your partner, your parents, anyone who's in your wedding planning support system, both personal and professional. If you're looking to kind of get a flavor for our expertise, you can download our free wedding planning checklist from the site to really the soup to nuts, most comprehensive wedding planning checklist. If you are inside the platform, you can create a customized checklist based on your specific event, all the different facets that you have going. And it's really a place for all the different people who are helping you and who you're delegating to stay on the same page. So within the to-do list, for example, you can assign tasks out to different people. You can leave notes, you can have attachments, all of your inspo photos can be in one place. You can assemble and organize all of your invoices and contracts. You can set out your budget to look at those estimates versus actuals. I think I read a stat recently that said about 48% of budgets are going over the initially intended budget. And if you have a system that you're using, our hypothesis that you can be a lot less likely to go over that budget, and you can be using your precious funds more wisely and make sure they're going to a place that you feel good about, that they're going to impact the experience that you truly want to create for yourself and for your guests. But it's all based in providing structure and guidance, but something that can be used across any different wedding event type. So if it's a small, intimate elopement, giant blowout, really applicable across the board, and you can take it and run with it however is most useful for your specific event.
So, for our listeners, they go right online, they pay a one time fee, and this will take them throughout their entire planning process and keep
Yes,
them stay
correct.
organized. Love it. So, you told us a little bit about like how you started and why you developed this, right? And now you have this amazing platform for our listeners to use and help them stay organized. I'm just kind of curious though, what are some ways that brides can, or couples for that matter, stay organized and stay on top of wedding planning right now?
Yeah, I think over the real journey of wedding planning, there's so many different sort of phases and headspaces that you might find yourself in over the course of the journey. At the beginning, you're inspo gathering, you're reflecting, you're having deep conversations with your partner, with your families about how do we really envision this day. And I think I always encourage people not to skip that step of being, you know, you're taking in information, you're determining your direction. And I think it's really important to not just leap into the prescription of what a wedding can or should look like, and really be thoughtful about what you specifically want for yourself. And I think a part of that reflection is thinking about what will this chapter in your life look like, and what do you want it to look like, and being really intentional about that. Are you someone who is tempted to DIY and go it alone with your partner and you want to be, super hands-on in that planning? Or do you perhaps want to have a professional helping give their expertise along the way? I think another part of that conversation and that reflection is, what kind of system do we want to keep? And the earlier you can develop a system, the better. And with Planner, that system can offer you a place to really come and land and lay out all the different pieces, whether you're in that inspo gathering phase, guest info gathering, which is an extended exercise of coordinating across who has addresses in my life and my family, and then retrieving those from people. So I think determining what that system can look like and thinking about, am I more of a type A person where the system will come naturally? Or am I maybe more type B where I'm going to have to really think harder about how I can stay consistent in organization? And we really try to meet people in both mindsets, whether you are someone where that comes naturally to you, or if we can help offer some structure.
So, Hannah, I have a question for you. Can you just like peek inside, like unveil a little bit of your program? Can you tell our listeners a little bit about what they would see if they paid the the subscription? Well, not it's not a subscription, the one time
Mhm.
membership fee, but like what would they see? Like as if I went right online right now and I purchased it, what would be kind of like my first task? And like kind of just give me a little bit of like behind the scenes, like some I don't know, items and helpful tips that they will see in that program.
Totally. So picture this, you're looking to log in and get started on a little planning session. So you sit down at your computer, you log in, and you're greeted with your own personalized dashboard that outlines what specific events that you have going. And if this is your first time logging in, we help walk you through that process of either noting down or estimating what those different dates might be for the events that you're planning. And it could be that you have many different events. You have a welcome dinner, the wedding itself, the farewell brunch, or maybe you're just focused in on the wedding day in particular. So you log in, you see your dashboard, you click into your account, and you see at the top your to-do list, budget, guest, vendor management. And we're growing so quickly that you might just see some other new tabs depending on when you're listening to this, because we release a lot of new things on a very regular basis. But in the to-do list, this is where you can use one of our expert wedding planning checklists. That is a set of tasks that takes you from the very beginning of wedding planning up until the day of and beyond. So we're creating a nice structure for you that covers all of the main things that you'll likely need to touch on, and then opens the door for you to customize that to whatever is most useful for your specific event. And that can be used and accomplished with our little AI chat, where you can ask a few questions, go back and forth, and understand what your particular event is all about. And then we can offer those custom tasks based on the event that you're planning. So everything is divided up by months. So if you're thinking about, what do I specifically want to dig into this month? And I think that's a really nice way to not get overwhelmed, where you're not trying to say, I have 100 tasks. This is a really long checklist, and I'm already getting overwhelmed just looking at everything that I have to accomplish. No, we want you to just be really focused on what's in front of you, exactly what you need to dig into, and where do you want to delegate the certain items. Is this something that you are digging into, your partner, your mom, your maid of honor, or your wedding planner? And when you're going back and forth in each task, you can have as many different subtasks as you want related to that. So maybe the overarching task is create guest list, super basic. But part of that is talk to my mom and get the guest book that she keeps in a physical binder of all of our family members. Or maybe it's talk to my fiance's father about guests from them, or however many sub kind of related things you want to accomplish. And those can be assigned out to the same person, different person, to yourself, to others. And it's just a nice way to keep it all organized. So that's kind of a deep dive into the to-do list tab in particular, and I could go on into the others, but overall, it's a place where you can come as your landing space. It's in a single area that is intuitive, it's beautiful, it's a place where you can feel really supported with the guidance that we're offering from our expert research on tasks and structure and timelines, but it also allows for flexibility as well.
So, if I'm hearing this correctly, it's a place of comfort, organization, and bite sized tasks, right? It's
Yes, exactly.
manageable.
That's
Yeah,
perfectly stated. Yes.
I love it. Actually, it's interesting. You brought up AI. So I think what we'll do is we'll take a quick break. And when we get back, let's talk a little bit about AI and what's happening and what we're seeing in regards to like how AI is shaping the bridal industry. I mean, at the end of the day, this is not what the majority of our listeners do on a daily basis, right? I mean, they're getting married once and done. They're not living, breathing the wedding industry like we are. So I would just love to just kind of talk a little bit about some wedding trends and AI and tech and where we see this happening and where it's going. I appreciate you being here. And hey, if you like what you're hearing, I encourage you to check out our website at sarahzarella.com. And don't forget, you can actually subscribe to this podcast wherever you're listening so you never miss an episode. And I would so appreciate if you left a fabulous review on Apple Podcast. Even better, share it with a friend. It's a great way to show your support. And now, let's get back to the episode. Well, welcome back to Wedding Secrets Unveiled podcast, friends. Before the break, Hannah and I were talking a little bit about an amazing platform that she has for you all, helping you plan your wedding day and staying organized. However, we're now going to switch gears a little bit and talk a little bit about AI and tech and just where we're seeing the wedding industry go. Okay. So with that said, let's talk a little bit about AI. Where are you seeing this in regards to wedding planning and how is it shaping the wedding industry right now?
Yeah. I have a very specific approach and perspective on AI, and it's all related to how we can infuse and incorporate it into our tools in the most tactful and effective way possible. Because at the end of the day, I don't want to slap it on and have it be something just to have a buzzword or to have something to market with, but truly something that can elevate and make more effective the planning process itself. So for me, that means where can we eliminate certain administrative tasks where you're having to repeat the same thing over and over again, where AI or different tools could perhaps expedite those processes. One example that comes to mind is querying your contracts, your invoices. So being able to ask, what is the alcohol policy in my venue? And then we can let you know, based on page 4, the alcohol policy or venue is XYZ. And it saved you a little bit of time from having to flip through a lengthy contract and spend time reading through. We can just give you that information and be really specific. I think where it gets tricky is maybe in the AI generated imagery side, and when the inspo goes into a place that is hard to nail down, where is this coming from or how can I truly replicate this in my own wedding planning? And so I think I'm looking at it from a very tool centric perspective, and how can it be most effective? But in the wedding industry at large, I think it has a lot of different repercussions on how it impacts people consuming information about wedding planning, and ultimately I think getting more overwhelmed when they're inundated with info, inspiration, content, and needing to find a calming path forward through the noise. And that's what we're really looking to be for couples and wedding pros, when you want to just shut out the noise, plan, reflect, and have a really enjoyable process. And that's where people were forced to pull up that blank spreadsheet or pull up your journal, your physical journal, and keep tabs on everything that you're doing. And we can offer an even more organized and enjoyable place to do that.
It's interesting you say that about the images and the info. There is a point of like getting too much and getting oversaturated that you lose the authenticity of like your own wedding and just like when you are starting to get inspiration and AI generated ideas and whatnot, you are now leaving and and going external is my point, right? Like
Mhm.
it's other people's ideas. It's a computer's thought process of they're getting their information from other searches, right? So you end up losing your own identity, right? And sometimes when that happens, it doesn't feel it feels out of not comfortable, right? Because it's not you. So therefore there's a stress level. um Also too, like, what's real and what's fake. There's that
Mhm.
level too on the imagery side. So AI is it's interesting. It's an interesting tool in the wedding planning. And I think this is kind of where it starts to take into, like, the millennials didn't always have AI, but Gen Z is pretty much going to have AI, right? Like, throughout their
Mhm.
planning process. So a little bit about what's happening when the millennial and the Gen Z, and
Mhm.
the differences and how that's affecting the wedding industry. I'm just curious of your thoughts on that.
In the dialogue about millennials and Gen Z, I see this tendency to want to bucket people one or the other. Who are you identifying with? And you have to really have this title and identity as something that speaks to how you operate in every capacity. And I think the trend now with the Gen Z kind of summary or generalization is that they're much more comfortable breaking the mold or thinking more deeply about what do I truly want in this experience. Where perhaps years ago, when the millennial side was getting married and mainly thinking about, there's a prescription or there's a bit more of a vision, and you're falling into the vision that had been set out for you previously. And maybe we bucked the trend in little ways here and there, but I see Gen Z couples thinking even harder about what do I truly want? What does the flow of the day look like? Recreating the timeline or imagery. Do I even need to have a videographer? Maybe a content creator is the right way for me to go. Or maybe this micro wedding is the better route for me based on how we want to be spending our budgets and seeing budgeting dollars go in different directions. So it's interesting to see those trends of being really thoughtful about your values and what you want the day to be spent doing, both for yourself and your guests and the guest experience you're providing. And if we're thinking more deeply about what we want, I'm all for that. I think it's great to be really thoughtful about taking charge of the day and not feeling too constrained by what other people might think or opinions from others, and being really intentional with your time. And that speaks to me also in the inspiration for Plannered about this is an amazing chapter in your life, but you are planning your wedding so you can go on and have a beautiful life after the wedding. And why not value your time leading up to that big day and give yourself the gift of having an enjoyable wedding planning experience and the big day be incredible, and not just white knuckle through the planning experience and make that really frustrating, and then the big day was amazing and worth it. I really think that you can have both be an enjoyable rite of passage.
Perfect. I love it. So tell me a little bit about what you're seeing and in the wedding trends.
Yeah, I mean, there's always so many different things cropping up across design trends or budget trends. I think when I think about, let's take color, for example, different colors coming up. There was all the kerfuffle about the
Oh,
Pantone color of the
yes.
year,
Yes.
and people being interested to know why this was chosen. And I'm going to intentionally go against it or kind of fight back against it. I think the trends these days, I think, are the overarching for me. The trend is you do you. That's for me the biggest trend. And I hope it's not, going to come and go quickly. But I think when I look at the colors that are trending right now, they're so varied. There's peaches and maroons and icy blue and white and cream. And I think it speaks to the bigger picture of individuality and being intentional about your unique vision. And whatever that is, you commit to it and you go full bore into that unique vision that you have, rather than the industry and the trend dictating what everyone does. And I think that's a little bit how I've seen the industry shift over the previous years, where, sage green and then everyone does sage green. Now I'm seeing more everyone going in a certain direction and being really intentional about the direction that they're choosing. But it doesn't have to be across the board, we all do the same thing, which I'm very into.
we've talked a little bit about Plannered, right? And kind of unveiled a little bit behind the scenes of what the program's all about. And obviously, our listeners can go right now and become a member, right? But what
Mhm.
about, an alternative way of getting their hands on this amazing software?
Absolutely. So, if you have someone in your life who is wedding planning, also maybe your best friend or your cousin or whoever, you can actually gift a plannered account to that person. And in this day and age, there's many couples who have been in the mix together for a number of years. Maybe they even live together, and you're sort of racking your brain for something meaningful that you can give them that they don't already have. And a plannered account is a great way to give them a gift that will continue to positively impact them for an extended period of time over their wedding planning process. So you can easily do this at planner.com. There's a little icon that you can click to give it as a gift. It's super easy to find. And then you can give them really, a positive wedding planning experience is truly setting the tone for not only their big day, but this whole next chapter that you're really getting into as a couple and the life that you're building together. So if that can be as positive as possible, I think that's a really positive and unique thing that you can give someone. So I'll shout that out and feel free to give that to the special person in your life.
I love it. Hannah, I got to ask you, what is your wedding hot take?
Okay, I was pondering this. My hot take is that wedding planning does not have to be a frustrating rite of passage. I think people frequently reference wedding planning as this arduous, overwhelming, and ultimately, overwhelming experience. And I just refuse to believe that it has to be that way. So that's my hot take that we can have a better experience. You can want better for yourself, and that you can ultimately seek that out to set a tone for your next chapter.
I love it. So I want to thank you so much for joining me. But before we end, I have to ask you a wrap up question. What are some key points that couples should be asking themselves when they're trying to plan a very professional, stress free event?
Great wrap up question. I think the first thing I would say is, what do I truly want for my day? And it seems like a really basic question, but I think it's something that sometimes people really truly do forget to ask. And you just jump into planning and things start falling into place almost like you weren't thinking big picture about what you're truly looking to accomplish. So I would say, don't skip the reflection part of the puzzle. Really think about what you want. Second thing would be, what do I want for my experience? And thinking more deeply about the actual process itself, not only just the day, but the lead up. Do I want to feel in control? Am I okay with a little chaos? Am I wanting this to be a delegation exercise? Do I want to keep it to myself? Really thinking about what do you want in the experience. And then lastly, I would say asking yourself, what is the tone that I want to set for this chapter in my life? Do I want this to feel like a representation of my relationship where my partner and I are on the same page, we're in lockstep, we're aligned, we're communicating well? Or will it maybe unravel and feel chaotic and you're setting this tone of disconnection, which I hope you aren't doing, but you can turn it around and have it feel more connected than ever. So those are the three things that I would throw out there to couples to really take control, be in the driver's seat of this experience, and to have not only an amazing day, but that the lead up can be just as enjoyable.
Those are great tips. So, I just want to thank you so much for joining me in this week's episode of Wedding Secrets Unveiled. You helped our listeners become one step closer to a stress free planning wedding process. Particularly your app is all about that, right? So, with that said,
Yes.
can you tell our listeners where they can find you and just, where they can get your app?
Yes. So you can get your Plannered account at plannerd.com, plannerd.com. You can find us on Instagram at Plannerd Inc. And I'm also on Instagram. It's Hannah Roze, Roze with a Z instead of an S. And we dabble in TikTok a little bit, but we're mainly on Instagram. But we'd love to connect and be social. And I'm happy to connect with anyone offline or in the interwebs.
And also, too, for our listeners, don't forget to tune in to our YouTube channel. You can see Hannah and I right there on YouTube. If you're listening, switch right over to YouTube. We also have our new Instagram page just dedicated to Wedding Secrets Unveiled. We'll also have all of Hannah's information, a link right to Plannerd, right on our episode show notes, which you can find on our blog. That's Sarah Zarella /wedding podcast. Hannah, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much, Sarah. That was great.
Thank you for listening to Wedding Secrets Unveiled. I appreciate you being here. And hey, if you enjoyed this episode, I want to tell you something. I encourage you to check out our website at sarahzarella.com. We love photographing while having fun, of course. Check out our podcast page on our website for our show notes along with upcoming episodes with your local wedding experts. Listen in as we help you plan your epic event. And don't forget that you can actually subscribe to this podcast wherever you are listening so you never miss an episode. I would so appreciate if you left a review for us on Apple Podcasts. Even better, share it with a friend. It's a great way to show your support and let us know what you think. If you know any wedding experts that would like to be a guest, we have a link directly on our website where they can let us know. Thank you for listening.